Welcome to the Modern Hippie Podcast, where we'll be exploring all of my favorite boundary-pushing people and topics surrounding consciousness, psychedelics, mental performance, functional medicine, living in alignment, and so much more. I'm your host, Barrett Perlman, a former pro wakeboarder turned body worker, energy healer, and well, a modern hippie. And I'm so glad you're here. Are you struggling to integrate your plant medicine or psychedelic experiences? Do you feel alone in your journey towards healing and self-discovery? It's time to discover the Sacred Integration Tribe. Our online membership community is dedicated to bringing people together to share their experiences and support one another on their healing journey. With access to a wide range of resources, including weekly expert guidance on live integration calls with me, Barrett Perlman, guest hosts, integration materials released monthly, and heart-centered peer support, you can finally find the tribe you've been searching for. Join Sacred Integration Tribe today at www.sacredintegrationtribe.com and discover the power of community on your path towards healing and personal growth. Again, that's sacredintegrationtribe.com. Welcome back to the Modern Hippie Podcast. I am joined today by DJ Taz Rashid, who is a musician and music producer of different genres and styles of breathwork, meditation, and transformational movement music scene music. Thank you so much for joining me today, Taz.
Hey, Barrett. So good to be here. And, I'm excited for our conversation. Looking forward to it. It's been a few weeks. I think like 2 months now since we last spoke. So I've been looking forward to it since then.
And a lot has gone down for you since then. You recently went on an ayahuasca retreat, I believe.
Yes. My wife and I, actually for the second time within the last year, we went back to Rhythmia in Costa Rica. Amazing place, and we were just there a few weeks ago and, still feeling all the blessings from it, and the medicine's working. It's a pretty powerful experience.
Yes, I look forward to diving in a bit more on that with you. What originally drew you to the music space, to the medicine space?
It was, I think, 2018. We watched a documentary on just on YouTube. It was I believe it's called The Reality of Nature or The Nature of Reality, but it had the girlfriend of Vin Diesel from Fast and the Furious. I don't know if you know that movie. I forget her name, but we saw it. But she was going on a medicine journey. Well, yeah, Michelle Rodriguez. That's right.
Yeah.
And she, she took a group and they went down to Peru and they were experiencing the medicine and ayahuasca medicine, and my wife and I watched it, and then this movie was actually, I think, directed or sponsored by Rhythmia, because after the movie was going on, they were talking about different centers around the world where you can go, and they spent like 40 minutes towards the end just talking about Rhythmia, and we were just like, wow, what like an amazing place. And it just drew us to like take our own spiritual kind of journey and adventure, however you want to think of it, like deeper, working with plant medicine. And there's so much there that we're not even aware of, that's like accessible in the subconscious, in the different realms, and to be kind of determined and announced to us, as we go through it. And we're just like, let's go. And then, life just got busy, and we had a child, and 2020 came, and then, literally last December, we were just planning a trip somewhere because we were dropping our daughter off in Chicago with the grandparents. And we were like, what about that place, Rhythmia in Costa Rica? Seriously, this is like a week before we went. We were like, this was like Monday. And we were like, what about that place? I called them up, I'm like, hey, is there an opening the next week? They're like, no, we're like sold out for like, 2 months. And I was like, oh man, because we actually had like a whole week where it was like a couple's time. We could do whatever we wanted. And that's not really common. And when you have kids, and we were just like, all right, let's go to Jamaica and hang out, and we'll just stay on the beach. I literally like booked a flight there. And they called me back. They were like, hey, someone canceled, a couple canceled, and we have 2 spots. And so we just, we booked right away, and we were there within 5 days. And it's crazy how it like literally the medicine like literally called us. It was like everything just kind of worked itself out. It was like a magical experience.
I find that's much how
Maybe
ayahuasca likes to operate
there, but yeah. It was like we weren't planning it for months. We weren't on like a crazy diet for, it was literally like, oh my God, we're going within a week, and get yourself ready,
Did you feel prepared for that experience?
Yeah, actually I was really prepared because I'd been on a 5 a.m. club kind of program where I was waking up at 5 a.m. for the 2 months prior to this. And I was like doing ice baths, and I have this thing called a plunge. It's like a cold plunge.
Oh my gosh.
I was doing that.
My boyfriend would be so jealous.
Yoga, breath work. Oh, yeah, it's cool. It's worth it. If he's thinking about getting one, they're amazing. So I was like really like preparing for something. I guess I was preparing for this experience, and I was like meditating regularly and doing a lot of breath work and guided visualization. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're going to go on an ayahuasca journey. I was like, all right, I think I'm ready. The diet part, I wouldn't say I was 100%, but I cut out the things necessary before the week, you know what I mean? To get a more full experience. And I don't drink alcohol, and, it was for that kind of stuff. And like overall I have a pretty decent diet,
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you were pretty primed. That's the sort of stuff I go over with people now to help them prepare, like make sure you're conscious of your breath and different breathing practices so you can really move that energy when it comes up, and move that nausea to different states.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I'm curious now, that was how many years ago before the one that you just recently had your ayahuasca experience?
That was just in December, and then we just went back in April. So we were like, we were twice within a year, so it was just like
it hooked you.
And these, and I think, right now I feel like really great. Like I don't have a year, like we will go back at some point, maybe next year or the year after, I don't know. But right now I feel like really solid. Like, after December, we were so elated. We were just like, oh my gosh, like we want to come back and go a little bit deeper, not from like a place like we had to, but it just feels like our soul kind of needed to, I don't know. It just felt like the right thing. And it was.
How beautiful. So. Can I ask what your intentions were going into this most recent ceremony?
Yeah, my intentions, I've been keeping them rather simple because of what I experienced the first time. So Rhythmia is a place where they really allow you to work strongly with your intention, and like really set up like how each of the nights could even go. Like they've served it to over 14,000 people. Wow. So like they almost like, I don't want to say they have it down to a science, but they almost like they track like everything. So they're keeping track of people's like experiences to like the T of how they're experiencing and feeling. It's really cool. And like they have a medical license there from the government. So it's like really an amazing kind of center of how they're working with the medicine. Anyways, that's one of the things I was really impressed by, is their integration process and how they work with the medicine, how you're dealing with it the next morning, and like the classes that they offer. And having gone through that the first time, this time around, my intention really was, I personally think like the deepest of experience, which is healing of the heart. And I just asked the medicine, like, how can I like heal my heart even more in ways that I don't know that needs healing,
Mm-hmm.
work that magic and allow my relations to be even more full of love and compassion and just more sacredness in my relationships with mainly my family. That's what I'm really, and friends too. But I'm more like interested in really like locking down my everything with my close family as much as possible, even more. And I think from that place and naturally, um, like seeps out to like all your relationships with with business people and friends and whoever you're coming across with. There's a natural like overflow that happens,
Mm.
from the
Yeah.
glow that like takes place. But the family is the core. That's one of my biggest realizations I had from the first time was how important. So I'll just share this since you brought it up. So the first time I went out there, I was asking questions like, oh, what do I need to know about my creativity and my career? And this, I was thinking more like, I guess in a material way, less about like healing of the heart. And when I was
Mm.
down there, everything was like all that just kind of like flew off, and it was all became like around family and relationships and the deeper stuff. And I'll be honest, it was amazing because from that space, all those career type questions that you may have, like they kind of like have a soothing of itself from, again, that overflow that comes from the healing of the heart. Like it takes care of a lot of those mental desires of wanting to know, is like
Mm.
they kind of fill themselves. And we can go
Yes.
deeper into that. But the healing of so the healing of the heart was really magical, and I could feel it. I'm sure. I think, yeah,
Mm.
you've obviously experienced the medicine, but she's like working on you, and like there's like like nights where I was just like, it was just like beings, or I don't want to get like, I don't know how you want to call it, like entities or beings or aliens or whatever it is. Like there's just like
Yep.
um, different forms of light, maybe even. I think it's like how we define God. There's different ways of expressing it.
Mm.
So a lot of people will call these light beings or aliens or entities or our divine essence or our inner divine or the plant energy, whatever that may be. Like I could feel those energies like completely just like working on different aspects. And oh man, it's just like
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
She's such a beautiful medicine, and you're absolutely on to it. All those different things that come to you, all the different parts of the mythology that we've created as a society with the different spirits and aliens and even just colors of light and animals and gods and goddesses and Christ even. And they can all be a
Yeah.
part of that journey. And I strongly believe there's no right or wrong. We've all created that into the structure of our source code, the structure of what we believe. And some things have more belief, but whatever like you believe to be the strongest is what's going to have the biggest impact on you. And I would love to dive more into what that heart opening, heart healing experience was for you, because I do think that you've made just my most favorite point in the entire world, which is that love is really the answer. And when you can operate from
Yeah.
that heart-centered place of loving awareness, it sheds a lot of light on all of those other questions in your life. And so how was
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, I think like there's a couple ways to go. Like, so at Rhythmia, they really help us like set up how to even work with our intentions, because it's so
Mm.
important, like how we kind of go into the medicine with like what we're asking for or what we're seeking for our kind of like for our journey, and one of the first questions they have us ask is show me who I've become. And this was so powerful for me.
Mm.
So my first experience, this is back in December, you asked, this was like the first night, and because it's like, you've just kind of like gotten off the plane a few, like 2 nights, before you're kind of getting ready. This is the first night of experiencing it, and that they invite you to ask the intention, like, show me who I've become. And this is so deep and like not easy, because the medicine, like, she'll just show you like all these aspects, and it's not always like the pretty things. I kind of like to go to, they say to go towards the darker or the harder kind of like areas, and like show you who you become. If you're like, neglecting family, or if you become selfish in some ways, or, your communication skills aren't good, whatever it is, and so for me, I was like seeing how I've like lost touch with so many relatives and family members around the world, because I've family kind of scattered everywhere, as most of us do. And it wasn't like, it was just bringing all this awareness around how we're connected to so many people in the world, but like, because we get so tramped into like our own project and work and whatever we're focused on, which is not a horrible thing that we're focused on certain things, but it's also great to take a step back and realize, wow, like I'm connected to so many other people in the world, especially like blood connection, people you're connected like in your family. That was a really nice experience to have that. And it wasn't from a place of I'm so bad that I don't call my cousin. It was more like, hey, like, you have a cousin, don't forget about them, and you could call them. So it was a gentler way of seeing these aspects that can be worked on in ourselves. It wasn't like from a place of condemnation or, oh, I'm so bad. Like, I didn't feel that one bit. It was literally like a grandparent, like grandmother, as they call it, grandmother medicine, like just kind of like telling the little child, like, hey, there's these aspects of yourself you should look into, and you can consider this or that. And that was like really amazing. That was the first night kind of thing.
And how many nights did you sit?
Each trip, each time we went, it was 4 nights in a row.
And so was there sort of like an overarching theme then? So like that's night 1, you get to see who you are, how you're interacting with the world. Where does it go from there?
Yeah. So that was night 1. And then night 2 was, what was it? Like, merge me back with my soul at any cost. And there's like other, so that's, okay, so I'll repeat that. So merge me back with my soul at any cost. This is like so deep, because they talk about how, at a certain age when we're young, usually around like 4, 5, 6, there's this like split that happens. And again, I'm not an expert at this stuff, so this is what I'm remembering right now. So
yeah, sure.
just kind of bear with me here. I may be paraphrasing certain things, but this is just from what I recall. I didn't even write anything down for this, conversation. But so merge me back with my soul at any cost. This is really cool, because they explain how, as a child, like, something may happen. It doesn't even have to be like a negative thing that happens to us. Some sort of personality comes in, and we kind of have a shift where we feel like we have to put on like a mask, or some sort of a we put on some sort of mask for the world, and this happens to like everybody at some point, and it could be even just the way we heard our parents say something to us, and it just kind of like, okay, and now I have to be this way, and so totally. Like, it just happens to everyone, and like oftentimes we'll lose maybe our innocence at that point, or like we feel like we have to be a certain way. That's the whole idea. Right. And everyone knows like how you felt so innocent when you were a child. Like, there is that time, and we can still connect with that level of innocence even in our adult life now, on the regular. Like, you can just feel that energy. But most of us have forgotten about that, or tend to forget about that. And then, but having that remind, so this was this night if you really felt like you were shown who you were, with the medicine the first night, for me, it was like I saw more of myself, and then I started getting merged with the soul kind of feeling of that innocence. And it was just like this kind of childlike energy.
Does that seem to bring up like your sense of play as well? Is that part of that childlike sense, that childlike energy?
Yeah, and it's like in the Bible, even like I think there's, again, paraphrasing, Jesus saying like act like children, when you come to
Mm.
like the master or something like that. And I've heard this in so many spiritual, it's like that. You kind of chill out on the ego, like oh, I already know this, or I've already seen this before kind of mentality, or like, yeah, I've heard about this. It's like scratch all that. Like, what if you were starting new? Your
Mm.
first day at school, you don't really know anything. Empty your mind of all the knowledge and act like a child of just like, I'm so like excited and ready to learn everything, about even myself. It could be, yeah. And I connected with that kind of like innocent like energy, and I think I've had that as a musician. I still kind of live like that. Like my life is, I'm very grateful for the kind of creative life I have, because I know these teachings. It wasn't like this was the first time I was hearing about all that, but it was
Hmm.
like a deeper experience of that with the medicine. That's the thing. That's the whole idea of plant medicine. Is a lot of us have been on spiritual journeys for many years, decades or whatnot. And until you experience ayahuasca, you don't know what that is. It's just it's a medicine on itself.
Yeah.
And and so yeah, so like becoming a child with the medicine energy was like a deep experience of that, of just complete like this blissful like childlike state. Uh,
Mm.
and as I'm sharing this, maybe you're hearing my daughter in the background. She's crying
It's
right now. She's
well,
having
it's
a
like
little bit of a
appropriate.
fever, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
My wife is doing an amazing job.
sending her well
She's with her right
wishes.
now.
And so
Yeah, she's gonna be all
interesting.
right.
I'm very fascinated
Yeah.
by this process that Rhythmia has sort of kind of laid out for you, just to give you a
Oh.
guideline at all if you
Oh
choose to
yeah.
follow it. And so night one,
Yeah,
you
and they
get
don't force anything. Yeah, they don't.
mm,
None of this is forced. It's like they really see after working with all the different shamans and teachers, and like they work with. I don't know their whole history, but right now they work with this guy named Taita Juanito, he's based out of Colombia. His whole family is actually connected back. His grandfather was, I don't know if he's still alive, but he was like 106 or maybe some years old. He was one of the oldest living like practicing shamans in the world. Maybe he was 108. I'm not sure. But
wow.
and I think he's still alive, but maybe he's passed. But so they're based in Colombia, but it's Peruvian roots, and like the conquistadors or whoever came, like they were pushed out. A lot of them were pushed out of, again, this, I'm not an expert, but from what I've learned, and seen, like they're pushed out of the Peruvian jungles and they moved up north, South America, and a lot of them ended up in Colombia, where they started practicing kind of secretly. And
Mm,
this lineage, they just opened up their medicine to the West about 15 years ago, from what I understand. Before that,
wow.
it was just straight up in the jungle. You had to find them, get out there. Um, so yeah, so they have like, it's not like random teachers are coming that's guiding the medicine. It's like they
Sure.
have really it like buckled down with everyone, under the same kind of guidance and teaching similar, which I really respect. So it's almost like this school.
Yeah. And so then did you have, I'm assuming you had a night off and then you got into the third night of ceremony? Or did they?
No, straight up 4 nights in a
Oof,
row.
oof, with much respect.
Yeah, yeah,
And what was their
yeah,
advice for the third night?
yeah. Well, the third night, it depends where individuals are, and if you need to like continue merging with your soul, like you may, like so. But from there, it's really the healing of the heart. Like once
Hmm.
you've kind of merged with that, your soul, and whatever that may be, for the individual, it's like the healing of the heart can really. It's like you see yourself, right? Like where you are, you merge back, and then it's like the deep work. I think if you
Yeah.
start with healing of the heart and not see a lot of that stuff, it could happen, but for me, I think some of the unlayering needs to happen before that deep heart surgery takes place.
Yes, that's something I'm studying in planetary Dharma Buddhism right now, is about, establishing the safety of like essentially the root chakra areas, and then working your way up to knowing who you are in that solar plexus, so that you're digesting everything that comes at you. And so now that you're sort of safe
Yeah.
and knowing who you are, then you can blast open the heart and really receive that instead of being
Yes.
overwhelmed by it, which is
Exactly. So yeah, you totally get that.
Yeah. And so
Beautiful.
now that your heart is more open, how does that affect your music? How does that affect your creativity?
Well, even before my music, I think what's more important is the way it affects my life in general, like especially with like people around me, especially like with my wife, with my daughter. I just have, like I'm a very like I think a practical psychonaut in a way where I'm like how like I'm not there for the fireworks, even though like experiencing psychedelics, like it's cool to see the geometric shapes and all the visuals. I'm a very visual person, so I'm seeing a lot of stuff like that. But it's like, what do I my thing is like, how is that going to impact my life and my relationships, right? So like otherwise it's like, oh yeah, I saw all this cool stuff, and what did you get out of that? Like what did you
Right.
make of it? And so for me it was like that's all cool, and then for me it was like this work is like actually helping me become like more like ultra aware of my behavior, ego. Those were the first main things. It's like you're just way more hyper vigilant on how I'm responding to family members, my sense of awareness, around people, and what I need to like be, say, prioritize. And this doesn't also mean that I'm just some like pacifist that's just like being walked like it's not like I'm just like a yes man now or whatever to everything. I'm even more like conscious about who I have to say no to and yes to, and what projects I need to like cut off and continue. It's like I'm becoming more aware of certain decisions I may have made before without having certain awarenesses of my true kind of path, so it's giving me even more clarity around how to behave. And because at the end of the day, because we're human beings on this earth, we have this experience of time, like that's like a magical thing that we have. Like we think of all these spiritual beings, and or we if we understand that they're not experiencing time like we are, to my understanding, like all the different entities and spirit
Right.
light, they're in like a whole different dimension that actually doesn't have time from what I understand, but we on earth have time. So it's like, dude, like our time is so precious. It doesn't matter, how much money you're talking about or whatever, like the time with your child, time with your loved ones, your partner, or whoever that you feel are important, those are some of the main things that I just had some like major like ahas, even deeper around like how important it is to protect our time and utilize it in ways to like serve our family and what's really important, And I'm not saying that I'm not making music. Like I haven't like, oh, I haven't made any drastic decisions. Like I'll tell you that's a good thing. But I am having these awarenesses even deeper around how to utilize my time and how to like spend my time working. Like what do I actually want to do? Like I'll give you an example. Like as a musician, touring seems like the coolest thing in the world, right? Like it's like, oh, you're on tour, you're traveling a lot, and it's really, I'm like 41 now, and I've toured for like the last 10, 11 years. It's amazing, but at the same time, I'm away from my family, during that time, whether it's 2 days, 3 days. I don't go on extended tours, but like, what do I want to say yes to more in my life? That's the questions that it's like, like what's actually serving my livelihood with my family for the long run. Am I going to see my daughter at this age, in 6 years when I may have more money or whatever? Like, when is enough? Like, so all these like questions kind of like start coming up in like a really eye-opening kind of way.
I think that's beautiful. And
but
no, it's you've touched on so many concepts that I want to elaborate on. Like, it really, like by tapping into your true self, is something I teach a lot about authenticity. And in saying no to things, you really get to discover what's a major yes for you. And then in saying yes to things that really drive you forwards, like it's very much easier to see what's a no for you. And I think it's beautiful that the medicine has enhanced that ability in you. And you also just got me thinking about time. And you're right, how we are stuck with this linear thing of time, but yet there's so many ways that it's sprinkled into this existence where we do get to have a quantum perception of time, where, for instance, like feelings, your body doesn't know the difference between you remember something from the past, you experience it in the present, or you visualize it for the future. Those feelings still ring true. And so essentially you do still get to be in this quantum moment of being able to experience all times at once. Maybe we're just not always identifying the ways in which we have that quantum perception, which is really, and you get a great taste for that in the medicine. A great taste for that.
Yeah.
So fun to explore.
And that's I think like with what you're and with what you're saying, it's like things like trauma, like because of that, it's like that's how people are holding it, because it may have happened in 1984, but if you haven't healed it, it just stays with you even now and into the future with however we're filtering our life and seeing certain things, so I think like specifically like ayahuasca and I'm sure a lot of other plant medicines as well, but with the healing of the heart, it's like in there, like clearing certain things. A lot of times, like I'll tell you one example. This is really kind of cool. Like when I came back, like I had like 3 different people reach out to me that I kind of had like a weird interaction with. I won't say any names, but like I just had some like weird energy in conversation, and I was just kind of like, I gotta like not work with this person, or I'm not feeling working with this person with the way they were. I was just, I don't know if you know human design system. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. Chance? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm an emotional projector, and I just like pick up on vibes of certain people. And I'm not I'm not an expert at it, but like I just know enough to trust my intuition. I can like feel people's feelings through email just by reading. Like it could be like if you just read it like a robot, but I can just like feel aggression or certain heaviness through like an email. I mean, most of us can do that, but like, my example is that after my first experience, like 3 different people like reached out to me. Some of them like were apologizing, and then we were all like all cordial again and like on good terms. And I didn't even do anything. Like I didn't even like message them or, oh, hey, let's talk or what. It's like they reached out and things are like cool for the most part. Like it's like fine. I'm just like, so I was like really like not weirded out, because I believe in the magic, and I was just like wow, like that's just amazing. Like sometimes we just clean certain aspects of ourselves that we don't even have to know about, or our logical mind doesn't even have to like know exactly what happened, but something got cleared inside where we're experiencing life differently, and that's what it's about.
Oh my gosh, that is so well said. Like I remember when I came back from my first 4-night ayahuasca retreat in October, and it was I was somewhere where we didn't have internet while I was there. And as soon as I came out and turned my phone back on, I had all of these messages from people I hadn't talked to in forever who wanted to connect me with so-and-so to do something that was really aligned, or someplace I'd been talking to for a few months that about doing breath work there that went dark for a few months, finally reached out and were like, we're ready to have you. And my marketing platform had dissolved for massage services. And all of a sudden I'm coming out to all these clients who found me, saw me, and tracked down my website to be able to book me. And people were just, it was insane. And the medicine has that beautiful ability, like you said, to really, I think it has a lot to do too with that opening of the heart that then magnetizes what's aligned for us to get more in alignment.
Yeah, and just synchronicities in general just get amped, I think. Like, it's just some of the things that it's just like we're such powerful individuals. You know, if like the idea that, you know, a lot of us, so many people in the wellness world is like, oh, you know, the divine in me sees the divine in you, or we all have the aspect of the divine in us. And I'm just always like, even if we had a drop of the divine in us, it makes us so powerful that like we are literally creating with our thoughts nonstop. It's like the law of attraction is working nonstop, whether we realize it or not. So it's like you might as well be thinking certain types of thoughts over others, because we're attracting whatever we're thinking and, you know, contemplating on or like looking at, you know. So it's like we're such powerful beings. So I think when we're mixing in the medicine work and having certain realizations, it just amplifies things in really amazing ways. So the synchronicities just like starts getting exponential. At least I've been seeing a lot of amazing synchronicities just since December, you know, which has been really cool.
Oh, that's so
it's like
rad.
You think it and then someone's calling you about it a week later or something like that, you know?
Right. You're like, how did you know?
Yeah.
How did you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so you created all of your beautiful music. I've been listening to a lot of it since we connected a few months ago. And I love your beats. And what influenced you to get started in a music career?
Well, I've been playing music since like 5th grade. Like I've been playing piano since I was a kid, you know, and thank God my parents, you know, took me to all those piano lessons, and they put me in. And my teacher, she taught me like piano theory, which I thought was really boring at the time. But like, if anyone's out there, you have kids or you're learning an instrument, like learn the piano, like learn the instrument, like the theory behind it, because especially if you learn it at a young age, it just something happens where like you're just able to write music and you just get it. Like it just becomes a part of you. And, you know, like for me, it's really, it's easy and fun to write a lot of music. And so like, obviously I didn't become full time with, you know, music productions. It's only in the last like 10 years, I left the corporate world in 2011, 2012. And then I was DJing, and then I was like DJing in the wellness world, like, you know, yoga festivals and meditation experiences and this and that. And then I was like, hey, I know how to write music. I'm playing a lot of other people's music when I'm DJing, you know, out of necessity. Like someone invited me to create like a chakra meditation, like a chakra meditation, kind of like music meditation. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so I was like, I just said yes to it, you know? And so out of like invitation, I just started like creating music. And then I was like, wow, I actually need to do this more because I'm touring and playing music. I got to have my own stuff, you know? So it was out of like necessity. I started like creating tracks for the yoga world, mainly at the beginning, like down tempo type stuff. And then I got really, because music production is something, it's not just like you have an idea, you have to learn like computer programs. Like it's really kind of nerdy, you know? It's like a lot of bells and whistles and turning of knobs. It's a very kind of focused, intricate job. And I'm still learning, you know? I talk to any music producers, we're always learning. There's no stopping. And that's why it's also fun. There's no end, like there's no, you know, end of the road with it. So I just got really serious, took a lot of like courses, you know, online programs. I was living in Chicago at the time, collaborations, you know, that's a good way to learn by working with a lot of people. And I work with a lot of people, you know, because when you work with a lot of people, you find people that you really enjoy working with. So if you work with like 50 people, you'll find maybe 5 that you really, it's kind of like speed dating or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never done speed dating, but I could imagine it's like a funnel, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
I used to be a TV producer before I got into the whole wellness space. And so it's a similar concepts where you'd be on a job for like a month or two and you're working with 40 people you've never worked with before. And some of them you're like, I hope I never work with that person again. And other ones you're like, please, let's work everything together. But
and for me, like I was gonna say, for me, I like to work with a lot of times like younger producers who are like kind of like hungry and getting in there, and a lot of times like they'll just an easy collaboration for me and a producer is like a lot of people remix my music, like they like my music, they've been listening to it, and they'll just want to remix it. For me, it's like I can help that producer, he or she, like put them in front of my audience, you know, and they're also creating a remix, and we split the profits. And I've done this with arrangement with many different producers who like love my music, and they're like, hey, like, let me remix this in a different way. It's just a really cool way to collaborate. And it's been a fun process for me.
I bet. How fun, yeah, to think too how much the industry has changed, I bet, over the last decade, where you can work with anyone anywhere in the world by sending things over the internet to each other. And it doesn't have to be, I'm assuming, the way that it used to be, where someone would have to come in the studio and like physically be there with you.
Oh, yeah. I think 80% of these musicians I work with, I've never met them.
Oh, wow.
You know, I try to call them so I can have some sort of a phone conversation. I love the human connection, but a lot of folks, it's just all been email or, you know, like I'll try to get on, you know, like Zoom call or something like that. But sometimes it's just like, you just see people through like a social media, kind of like, you see who they are, but you may have never met them, you know, but you feel like you know them, you know that feeling because of social media.
Totally.
And you meet them in person, you're like, oh my God, I thought you were 6'5", but you're only 5'2". No, I'm just kidding.
Do you get that as well? People say that to me. Not that I'm 6'5", but they're like,
no, I've actually had that with, no, I'm like 5'9", and someone met me and they thought I was like 6'3", and I was like, what? Like, first of all, I'm like from the Southeast Asian, like how many 6'3" Indians do you know? You know, I'm Bengali, but most people would think I'm Indian. But I was cracking up about that. You're like, you're a lot shorter than I thought. I'm like, what?
I feel you. I get that comment all the time. People are like, I thought you'd be taller. I'm like, I just have a tall aura. Really is what it all boils down to.
Yeah, there it is.
Is your family very spiritual, like your heritage?
Well, my wife is definitely on the spiritual edge. She got me into a lot of stuff, you know. Our whole relationship actually started from the spiritual kind of like path. I mean, it's funny. We originally met in a nightclub, but we weren't like exchanging numbers. But like months later, we ran into each other in a different circumstance, and we were both kind of on a spiritual, like seeking, you know, thing. And then we exchanged information, and so our whole, you know, birthing of our relationship was through like Deepak Chopra conversations and spirituality and, you know, law of attraction and this and that and Eckhart Tolle. Anyways, my family on my side, yeah, I think they're very open-minded. You know, my lineage is, my parents are all like of the Islamic faith, but they are more on the, like on my dad's side, especially like the Sufi lineage, which is like more kind of spiritual, Muslim, and everyone's very open-minded. Like, so I grew up Muslim. I'm more consider myself spiritual now. Like I'm not really on the religious side, you know, like I won't say to somebody that I'm a Christian or a Muslim or Jewish. I consider myself like a spiritual being who believes in God and trusts and love and connection with everyone, you know.
It's the best description.
So I do believe it. Yeah. And I believe in nature and like how God is in everything, you know. And my wife, her family is Christian and Jewish, and she's also very similar. She does have a deep connection to Jesus, which is really cool. But I wouldn't say she's like some hardcore Christian or anything like that.
Yeah.
Nothing extremist.
My boyfriend's a little similar, where he like went down this very big Christianity path in his 20s and then came out the other side of it being like, okay, wait, no, that organized religion isn't quite the right way, but he still has a lot of strong beliefs about Jesus. And it's hard not to, like, the Jesus Christ consciousness is such a beautiful figure when you really boil it all down.
Pure love. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's like that's the thing. It's like I love the Christ energy. It's like it's when you get into the dogmas and like the judgmental decisions. It's like that's where I can't like attend churches like that, or like I don't want to sit in a lecture and hear about hellfire and who's going to go to hell or not. It's just I've heard that stuff growing up. I definitely had that upbringing, and hey, it may be true or not, but I just know that I do have the choice in this world to worship God the way I want to create. And again, that's another very powerful tool for every human being, is that we kind of get to choose how and who we get to worship, which is interesting. So if you are going to worship a very judgmental God, you have the power to do that. But my truth and understanding is you kind of like become the God you worship. Okay. So like when you, because like you're giving God these personified human characteristics. So like all those judgmental things is like what humans do in a way. So it's like when you give those characteristics and you worship that God, you kind of start living your life like that for a lot of ways. Is what I've seen. Again, this is not like I'm saying this is it. This has been my experience. So when I'm worshiping a more loving, like accepting God, like that's how I'm kind of experiencing my life as well.
Powerful. So powerful, and just a great point, a testament to like the power of love. That's also a reason I've never really been such a fan of organized religion either, is like, here's a God that's teaching you to love thyself, love thy neighbor, but then yet also it's okay to go kill people because they don't believe the same thing as you do. Like that, that literally conflicting information. So stick with the love.
So true. Yeah. I don't know. I think worshiping religion can be great. And when you get into even in spirituality, there's different like spiritual, like religions that in the West they see it as very spiritual, but they're still a religion, And I'm not gonna say anything. Just I don't want to piss anyone off, but like there's like religions like from Asia and India, and in the West they're like, oh, that's spirituality, but no, it's actually a religion. And even in a lot of those religions, it's like this is the only way. When you get into this is the only way, to attain either enlightenment or heaven, and the others are not as good, there's a level of judgment there for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like the Rumi quote. There's 1,000 ways to bend down and kiss the ground,
Yes. That's a great quote.
I don't know if you've heard that one. Maybe I'm paraphrasing it. It's something like that.
It sounds about right. And it really leads to just like use your own discernment. What feels right for you, what excites you, what lights you up, and what feels like it comes from a place of light and love. How can you channel more in that direction to love stronger, love harder? I'm curious, who are Absolutely. Like, what are some of the 3 maybe biggest influences on you right now? Who or what?
What, people wise?
Sure. Or practices that you have.
Or like
what are
just
the
experiences? Practices. I like to, with people, I think there's just like a lot of people, like, I'm just gonna be fully honest with all this stuff. Like, I think for me, it's more about practice right now, less about a certain guru or a person. Like, if you ask me, like, who are you really listening to right now? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I listen to a lot of good people. It's literally like, I read a lot. I'm listening to Audible podcasts, social media type stuff. I'm reading. going to like retreats, and like that's been like that since like 2007, 8. Right now, I think for me, it's really about practice, you know, like for a while, I kind of stopped going to like spiritual retreats and like workshops. Cause like, I felt like it was a lot of I felt like it was a lot of the same information, kind of like repackaged, you know, so my mind was kind of judging that. And then just recently I was just like feeling for a desire more. And then the plant medicine was like really made it visceral, like in your like body embodiment of these spiritual teachings. So for me right now, the main things are around practice. And so that being meditation, self-awareness, like type practices, things for the body like yoga, working out, you know, as much as I'm not like some health nut that's constantly working out, but I do know the benefits of like practicing yoga and feeling that like, and being a musician for that world. It's like, it just makes it easy because like I'm creating the music for it. So I'm usually practicing, like I'll make breathwork music. Like I have a meditation cushion back there. I'll sit there and listen to the music I made and do breathwork practice. You know, like it's like
nice.
So for me right now, it's really about practicing, listening to the body, and becoming awareness of like, I guess the asshole nature that's kind of inherent within all of us that can come out, you know, and just really being aware of that. And it's not that, and I'm not saying asshole like in a really bad way, but just like that, what's that kind of like
ego,
the ego, like the unkind nature, I guess, becoming aware of that. Like, how can you practice more kindness? I guess that's the better way of saying it. Yeah. How can I practice more kindness? And because there's really like every moment there's a decision we're making, you know, that I'm choosing whether to act in this manner or a kind manner, or maybe a manner in a way where I'm agitated by what I need to be doing, what I think I need to be doing with that time. You know what I mean? Like we all experience this, especially because I live home. Family is always around. I have to practice that. And my wife is really super good about giving me the space and time that I need to work, because it's a creative job. Like,
right.
But like, sometimes I have to walk away to go help, you know, like, and you know, it just happens. And like, so I have to like, those moments, like I get to choose how irritated do I want to be right now because I have to do something, or do I take a deep breath and just act from a place of love. And so I'm working on that. Like those are my teachings right now, is like I've been shown all these things, you know, like the teachers, the plant medicine is the teacher right now, in a way. I would say it's like I've been shown these things. Now it's really time to put it to test. Like there's not much to continue like talking or learning about, except for practicing it in our day-to-day life.
Right.
Because it's actually rather simple, but our ego makes it difficult to practice because the obstacles are constantly being thrown. You know, that's the thing. It's like we make it difficult ourselves. It's actually very simple stuff.
Right.
Difficulty comes from what we set up for ourselves.
That is so incredibly well said. You know, that's that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And practicing what you preach, practicing not being a product of creating suffering for yourself, really, by sitting in those situations and being like, you can either choose suffering and tension and agitation, or you can choose kindness and love. I think that's a really beautiful message.
Yeah. And also, like, I brought this up earlier, you know, when we're talking about like, even like there are times, you know, when we're dealing with a lot of different clients and business and all that, where even from a kind place, we can say something where it will make someone upset by that decision we made. But there's a kind way to handle that with love, because it may not be right for us. Like, I know about 3 kind of clients right now that I kind of need to like let go of. And it's not like they're bad. It's just like, I just know that I can't put in the type of hours for that project that's maybe necessary, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just know like where you have to sometimes like pull away from if you haven't got in too deep with it or something like that. Or especially in the music world, sometimes you try collaboration because it's such a creative thing. There's a lot of subjective information where it's like, creativity is so subjective. You know, there's like, oh, I think it's amazing, I hate it. You know, like it's just like, it's all perspective, right? Like, and as an artist, we have to respect our time, because when you work on a song or a painting for 20 hours and you think it's amazing, and as an artist, like if you've proven to yourself and to those around you that you can do the work over and over, and you think it's something, hey, you're really proud of it, right? It's not crazy to think that I've learned that like others may not like it at all, and that's okay. But sometimes in that disagreement or whatever, you have to really choose like, hey, do you want to redo the whole thing, or do you want to say, you know what, let's end this right here, and it's okay to be done with it, because again, it's your time, you know, right. And it's not a financial thing or whatever, because it's just how do you want to spend it? Because sometimes, you know, like in the creative world, like when you build something or you create something that you personally feel like you really love, and if others don't like it, you may lose that energy of working on that project.
Oh, absolutely.
Like from a clear space. Like even if they're like, we'll give you $5,000 more. Usually in collaboration, that's not happening. I'm just saying, like it's like throwing the wet blanket on, you know, when you're like feeling all cozy and you're like, it just, knowing when to walk away is very important. And it's not easy for people to do that. True. And I think through true like healing of the heart, you start realizing how you can say, hey, I got to go, and be able to walk away and be okay with that, you know? Because it's great. Like it's again, that's like, it's stuff you have to like constantly work on and see and check in with yourself. And you have to be careful too, to see that it's not from the ego that you're making a decision like that, but you're really honoring your time and path.
Yes.
Hopefully there's a discernment there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful path to be walking. And I'm happy to be sharing this time and space with you and with my audience. And where can everyone keep up with you? Your music's on Spotify. Oh, yeah. Where else do you like to point people?
Yeah. Easiest way is just to like follow me on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you're on. Everything's under DJ Taz Rashid. And like I was saying earlier, you know, my audience is primarily folks who are in the wellness world, like yoga, practice meditation, breath work, ecstatic movement, or you just love like good feeling music. Like my mission in life is to awaken humanity with music. I wrote that down in 2011, and that's still been my mission and purpose. So I plan on doing that with music right now, and traveling and touring. And I do have some upcoming tours coming up this year. And so you can go to my website or Instagram or wherever. I'm really not on TikTok much or anything like that, but Instagram is my main like social media, I guess.
Okay.
And you can go to my website, but yeah, good stuff.
Well, we will have those all linked up in the show notes. And I am so grateful to you for spending this time and space with me today, and look forward to following you more on your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and inviting me to, you know, share my journey and my experience. And I'm always honored. So thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and review this podcast wherever you're listening. I'm so grateful to have you on this journey with me. Until next time.